welcome back and hello to our weekly energy update, the weekly Empaths for those of you who are energetically sensitive or who have experiences that they can't really talk to others about. My name is bryndis and I'm a professional energy healer and energy trainer. And I'm going to try to give you not a forecast, but hints and tips as to how you may be able to contextualize what you're experiencing, what this means for you, and how to counteract this a little bit. Yes, and if you see my eyes wandering back and forth, we are live on Instagram, on Facebook, and the Empath forum. transCODES has a very lively Empath community consisting of people who are participating in the self-training that we have for empaths called Sacred Self-Healing, and also those, of course, who work with us directly or who want to know more about the energetic perspective on things. So let's dive right in. This energy barometer that you see here, there is a red arrow. Okay, I just want to make sure you understand that this doesn't mean it's going to be a bad week. It means that the intensity levels of how we perceive whatever processes are going on inside of us, whatever things are going on in the world around us. Please feel free to share. This is also an opportunity for you to comment, to even ask live questions, and also to share what is working for you at the moment, what has helped you to deal with current energies. So when the energy barometer is on red, what does this mean? It means that we are looking at a time that can be felt as sort of, I don't want to say intense again, but it feels like you are not fully in control, and this can actually trigger things in you, such as the fear of losing control. So I want to give you guys a heads up here for this next week, okay? There are some really, really powerful forces at work right now. Not some conspiracy theory stuff, but you know, there's a lot of transformation in this whole entire collective that we are in, and everything is kind of falling apart that used to work. So when you get to this place where your inner dialogue is kind of like, oh my God, you know, like this isn't working. No matter what I try, you know, it's always ending up in that place of I'm not good enough, or I need to try harder, or anything into this direction. I want you to not take things too personally this next week, all right? I already said this last week, and it is this 2-week period here leading up to the spring or autumn Equinox, depending on what part of the world you live in. And the spring equinox, the March 20th, is actually the real beginning of the new year. So it is actually where this whole new 2009 energy begins to really incarnate, if you will. And for us as energetically sensitives, we can feel this very strongly around those times. So as energy workers, we always pay a lot of attention to equinoxes and solstices. You know, those are the natural markers of new seasons in nature. So you have to kind of accept that this is all part of your normal life cycle, of your normal sort of phases in life. And if you can actually get into this place that you look at all this transformation business, right? This, like, trying to find out who you truly are and shedding some of what you not are, then, you know, I can tell you as a person who works with people from all over the world, from all walks of life, that this is part of you embodying yourself, embodying your true self, finding your true self. And a big part of that always is letting go. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, I said that, you know, this whole finding yourself and maturity and growing and evolving journey is more about letting go rather than acquiring something or accomplishing something. It's like the raw diamond, you know, within the granite block. So the granite block, that's the culmination of all the stuff that we've acquired to help us get through, to help us cope. We also call this ego. You know, this is the part in us that came up with, of course, suggestions based on, you know, how things should be or ought to be. But it's also the part in us that helped us to deal with like really traumatic experiences and big challenges and crises. And so when we are in the process of letting this go, it's almost like we have to go through the individual stages of grieving. And I want you to really look at what you are doing right now, no matter how dramatic it appears to you, as a grieving process, all right? Not that it's a bad one, it's just like this really agreeing to letting go of this old self, this false self of you. And what this means here in particular for this next week is that it's probably a good idea to just lay low. If this was a board game, if this was a game, I'd say sit this round out, okay? This next week is just going to be really deep, you know, this inner reflection momentum that is there will continue, and you will discover things about yourself that you cannot love yet, or that you are just not sure. Is this really me? Is this who I am? Is this who I want to be? And even things such as selflessness and selfishness will be sort of questioned. Many of us empaths, you know, have a tendency to be codependent in some ways, not necessarily depending on a particular person or a particular thing, but you know, we need this reflection, this external reflection, to know who we are. And what we will be experiencing here in this next week is a little bit like an identity crisis with this, because we are starting to get all this inner prompting as to who we truly want to be. And we many of you are in this process of really trying to connect within, and this is a wonderful process, but it's all about you being willing to let go of all the things that you believed in before. So it's a battle of mindset. It's a battle of belief systems within yourself, okay? And this is the scary part. Yes, Sammy. And this can lead us to acting out like a child. And actually, if you look at other people, and when they sort of totally freak out, and when they go into this like explosive bursting or really impulsive behavior, actually what you're seeing there is the unresolved inner child in them. The same, of course, when you do this yourself. What you're observing is not necessarily your shadow or your darkness. What you're observing is all this unresolved parts, these unresolved parts in you. And so when it comes to becoming more true to yourself, you have to look at those. And it's okay, you know, that when you can do this from being fully present within your heart and with this sort of with self-compassion, and also a little bit of understanding. So I do really recommend you guys to educate yourself on certain things, such as developmental stages, you know, such as these different processes that we all go through as a human, all right? We all have this, you know, this maturity or maturing process, this evolution from coming to this world in this body that is completely dependent to this person who wants to individuate, who wants to express our individual, personal, highest potential. And this is what you're up against. So it's actually not as dramatic as it feels sometimes, because what you are feeling, what is emerging, is your true self. Yes, this is actually this inner conflict now between things that you thought you need to do or need to be, and this part in you that says, wait a minute, this isn't you. There's more there. There's more. Many of you feel this emptiness or this lack of of fulfillment or of meaning in life, okay? And this is what, you are asked or guided, really. You're guided to seek for this. Yes, and Sammy, this is a very complex question that you have, issues that you have with your mom. And I've announced this in the forecast for 2019 and also in the forecast for March 2019. March is the month of trauma healing. It's this March, okay? We're going deep into stuff that goes back to our family constellation, to how we grew up, to how we were conditioned, because those are all the things that lead to this inner conflict, right? And of course, if we, still dependent, to our family systems, or if we still live with our parents, or if there are strong ties, then, this can play out in those relationships through bursting out. There is no simple answer for you, Sammy. This cannot be fixed per se. This is more about you going into this place of wanting to reconcile from within, okay? So you have to look at the things that you see with your mom as the things that have shaped you and that were part of your evolution process, and take it with gratitude, but then hand it back and say, okay, thank you for everything, even maybe the trauma and the abuse that I've experienced, but here, take it back, all right? I'm moving on now. And this moving on without looking back and having feelings of vengeance or resentment, this is where we have a little bit of an issue, because we feel traumatized, we feel abused, we feel victimized, and this is why right now, as you can tell here within transCODES, is a lot of talk about all these inner child wounds, all these narcissist empath issues, codependency issues, because they are right there, they're right in our face, and this is the only way really for us to grow, is to really look at them. And I strongly recommend that all of you watching this, and if you resonate with this, to go into educating yourself. Here at transCODES, guys, this is like a gym for self-discovery and self-healing, okay? We have ongoing public sessions, energy sessions, trainings, webinars, where this can be discussed amongst people who are going through similar processes. And if you go to my website, you can see that there's some featured sessions that are coming up next, but it's really, if you want to get an overview, it's best to look at the event calendar, and you'll see, since basically 4 weeks, we are dealing with inner child, with karmic family, with narcissist empaths problems, with codependency problems, with all these problems that have to do with how we relate to other people, and how this was programmed into us, and how we are at a point where we are ready for change. We can see that this isn't working for us. Yes, thank you for sharing this. When realizing the inner child connection and learning how to approach it, it made a huge difference for you. Allowing codependency to be recognized was huge. This is really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because we have these labels in our heads, and this has to do with these belief systems, with those mindsets that we are up against, that makes up this confliction in us, and whatever it is that we understand as codependency or narcissism or whatever can get jumbled up. It really comes down to, when it comes to codependency, it really comes down to, the inability to make my own needs more important than other people's needs. And there's conditioning, but there's also, something in us that we don't take important enough, that we cannot love enough, and therefore we end up in this place of persisting victimization or being taken advantage of. And if you want to break the cycle, because you can, then you first have to look at that. And sometimes it takes a little bit of what we call psychoeducation. You look at when these things were actually formed, when you were primed to things, and which people in your life played an instrumental role in this, and where this liberation has to take place. So this next week, guys, is all about you. It's kind of like letting go of this inner confliction between needs and wants. There's a huge sort of guilt and shame energy that is coming in here with this next week, which is at the core, at the root of all this confliction within. If we have needs and we don't think it's okay or we're worth it to ask other people to help us to meet those needs, say in relationship or at work, or and instead we're just sort of robotically always answering or responding or trying to anticipate other people's needs, then there is an imbalance there. So that would qualify for what we call codependent. There is this inner imbalance between you needing something, and yet instead of making that a priority, or perhaps a lot of times with empaths, it's also that we kind of try to model this behavior to others, and we want to show them how we want it. But this requires you to do boundary work, and this requires you to learn how to express this more clearly, because guess what? Other people are not empaths. Other people are not mind readers, and they cannot feel your needs. And therefore, to go into resentment with this and to, feel victimized or taken advantage of, I'll be honest with you, here in energy coaching, 8 out of 10 times, it's because you, the person, hasn't really expressed this clearly to the other, and they have no clue. Now, you can say, of course, well, but I'm pretty sure I've said this a million times and so forth, and from your perspective, that may be correct. But when the other person is more sort of on the selfish side, and I also want to bring our kids in, if we have enabled the selfishness, right, through this codependent parenting, well, yeah, then they're not going to sort of give that up voluntarily. Of course, there's resistance then, and if you find yourself in an extremer type of relationship, codependent relationship, where there's a narcissist involved in that, or that is clearly, out there to, suck you dry, okay, then you really need to learn how to counteract this and how to heal yourself from within and how to build your own life so that you're not that susceptible anymore. By the way, we have on Tuesday evening, we have a special self-healing workshop. That's a 2-hour workshop called Empath Narcissist Trauma, and how the energetic aspects of that and how to work through this. This is a free workshop for all the people that work within the self-healing community here at transCODES. And for those of you coming from the outside, you can buy tickets for this. This is like literally, laid out all the aspects physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, behaviorally, spiritually, and energetically, laid out what the problem is and why we feel, so attracted to this, to this selfish personality, and what in us gets something out of this and how to overcome this. So on Tuesday night, please check the calendar. I'll put up the picture here in the edited version. But besides that, it's really about you being willing to let go of some of these false identities. So it's the shedding of your false self now, okay? And so as far as the physical symptoms here for next week, in the energy tips for the Patreon subscribers and the heart warriors and the people that work with me directly, so you can also work with me directly. We have programs for that. You always get the in-depth energy tips every week, and there I'm going to go really deep into this. But here I just want to cover sort of the physical symptoms or the emotional symptoms. So emotionally, I think the main feeling will be that of anxiety and almost like a fear of loss of control. And physically, you're most likely going to feel a lot of this tiredness, feeling uncomfortable in your skin. I'm expecting people with eczema, people with neurodermitis, people with asthma to have flare-ups of their chronic symptoms here, especially around the equinox next week. So the equinox is on the 20th, but that's the days before and after, you know, that sort of represent the peak of it. So if you're having skin conditions, if you're having issues with your hair, if you're having issues with your lung, if you're still dealing with the residue of the flu wave that went through us last week, okay, then don't panic, okay? Just go into this really soft place with yourself. Self-care, number one, take as many naps as you need, calm your nervous system. It's also the time, I can strongly feel this within myself, to wear really comfy clothes and just do soft surroundings. If you live in a climate zone where you can see springtime emerging, go in and put some bulbs in the earth, you know, start seeding and so forth. Just like really go with this natural cycle and don't try to resist it. It's okay, right? It's the end of winter. It's the end of, you know, all this darkness and cloudiness within. And those of you who want to take advantage of the giveaway that I do every week, I'm giving away 4 tickets for something that may feel a little intense, but this is the level on which we work with things here at transCODES. We have a Healing Circle workshop that's a special combination of energy healing session with live webinar right afterwards, talking about experiences, educating ourselves on certain aspects involved, and we are going to be talking about the energetic aspects of sexual energies, and also in this week in particular, trauma, sexual trauma, and what this does to our energy, and you know, why this is so important to really work with your sexual energies. There is no, you know, inappropriateness, nothing that you need to worry. But, you know, our sexual energies are part of our life force energy, and if we have guilt and shame tied to those, then it can come to repression, oppression, and so forth. So if you want to win one of those 4 tickets for the workshop on Saturday, that's 1 till 4 p.m. here in the Eastern US time zone, then please type in, I want to understand the difference between my needs and my wants. If you want to win a ticket for the upcoming workshop on Saturday, 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern time, type in, I want to learn about the difference between my needs and wants, because that's kind of like where this is heading. And collectively, guys, you can see this everywhere. It's crazy right now. Things that have been tolerated in our society for a long, long time are starting to get uncovered. They're starting to come forward. It's not acceptable anymore. I don't want to, transport my personal opinions here, but things such as the documentary on HBO, Leaving Neverland, things such as the college scam scandal here in the United States, of course, some of the other legal issues that are going. Those are all signs, guys, that we are transforming as a society, and this isn't going to go easy. This isn't going to go, in a sense of like, yeah, let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and we're going to be happy and love and light will prevail. No, this is going to go, hard knuckle. People will hold on to the old power structure, and this is what you feel inside of yourself as well. You want to hold on to the old ways, to how it used to work for you, but you already know it's not working. And so the conflict that you're dealing with from within is staying in your truth and allowing yourself to be present. So when I say lay low next week, what I mean is try to be as present as you can, ground as much as you can, be soft with yourself, and just allow these things to come forward. Here amongst us energy healers, we call this intense integration time. All right, guys, this concludes the energy update here for this next week. I hope you enjoyed what you learned here. Yes, we have a first winner. Okay, wonderful, guys. Keep posting. We got 3 more tickets. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your hearts. Don't forget to like the video and to share it. And if you want to work with me or see me live on stage, the only time I actually work in person in a workshop is during the summer solstice this year in Iceland. So please check out the Iceland video where I introduce what we're going to do there. It's about conscious living, and I'm going to guide you in 3 days. I'm going to guide you through all these different phases of your self-discovery and self-healing journey. Very, very interesting, and of course a wonderful place to do this at. Thank you, guys. Come back next week. Share the videos. Bye-bye.